Good morning, Dan and Amy. Well, 24 hours to go before the change in administrations. President Obama having his last press conference yesterday. Tearful press corps, parting such sweet sorrow between the two between the administration and the D.C. press corps. President Obama also asked, of course, about his decision to commute the sentence of, traitor.
Just say it. Yeah.
Traitor? Is traitor a fair word? I think it's a fair word.
I thought you were deciding between Bradley or Chelsea Manning. Because he referred to her as a she.
It's Chelsea, don't call me Bradley Manning. XY chromosome means you're a dude. So I'm glad we could get that cleared up. President Obama explained his decision to commute the sentence in spite of a lot of criticism, even from some on the left.
First of all, let's be clear. Chelsea Manning has served a tough prison sentence. It has been my view that given she went to trial, that due process was carried out, that she took responsibility for her crime, that the sentence that she received was very disproportionate relative to what other leakers had received, and that she had served a significant amount of time, that it made sense to commute and not pardon her sentence.
So there's the explanation. Get a reaction to that. Somebody who has had a decorated military career. Our friend, Colonel Allen West, CEO of the National Center for Policy Analysis, of course, former congressman, and the author of the book, The Guardian of the Republic. Colonel West, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Dan and Amy. And since it's the first time, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. It's a Happy New Year for Chelsea, don't call me Bradley Manning. What did you think about the president's explanation for the commutation? The sentence wasn't proportional, served a good period of time, damsel in distress, again, more heroic work on the part of the president.
Well, first of all, I find it unconscionable. There is no explanation for what the president did. Army Private Bradley Manning was charged, tried, convicted, and sentenced and incarcerated at Fort Leavenworth Prison for, releasing 755,000 classified documents over to WikiLeaks. And there is proof that individuals' lives were put in danger because of the material that was leaked. And there were some that were aiding and helping the United States of America that lost their lives. So, 7 years out of 35 years, I don't see that as, something that was very harsh. If you do that type of crime, if you violate the Espionage Act, there are consequences. And look, let's be very honest. The only reason why Bradley Manning gained any sympathy from the president or from the left is because Bradley suffered from the mental condition called gender dysphoria. And that should not be something that we take in consideration when you violate the standards and the code of the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Well, don't you think they also took into consideration that he tried to commit suicide twice in the past 6 months?
Well, yeah, again, but that has to do with this mental condition that Bradley Manning suffered from. And so what I think that we really do learn from this, Dan and Amy, is that this whole thing about the transgender ban being lifted, this is, and this was determined by, not me, but it is classified as gender dysphoria. It is a mental condition, and the United States military should not be delving into this situation because, as we have learned from this case, it does have serious ramifications for the standards of conduct and also for the order and discipline of the United States of America. And obviously, according to Bradley Manning, he was confronting his gender dysphoria, which led him to do the things that he did as far as leaking those classified documents. So I think it is also a readiness and national security issue.
Yeah, I want to raise that issue that I don't think has been given the attention it deserves. David French, who served in the JAG Corps in Iraq, writes a National Review Online on the topic you're leading into here, which is looking at the sentence through the prism of the civilian justice system. is wrong. You have to look at it through the prism of military justice, and then there's an additional component with respect to military justice. It's not just punishing bad acts. It's also in furtherance of military cohesion in terms of the effectiveness of combat units, the warrior ethos, he terms it. And that's why the sentences are so severe, and appropriately so, for traitorous actions, treasonous actions like Manning committed.
No, you're absolutely right. People need to understand the Uniform Code of Military Justice is completely different from the civilian system. You know, when I was a commander in the military, we could take action against a soldier who didn't, was bouncing checks, or a soldier that was disobeying an order. I mean, if you tell your boss in a civilian job that, hey, look, I don't agree with this, I'm not going to do this, you can fire him, but there are other things that you can do in the military, such as, making people do extra duty, taking away pay. So what the president did with commuting the sentence of Bradley Manning was he truly undermined that Uniform Code of Military Justice. And what he said to the men and women in uniform, the men and women out there in our intelligence agencies, is that he believes that he's the arbiter of what is truly justice when it comes to people that are, putting our national security and our intelligence assets and individuals at risk. I don't think that's his decision to make.
All right, so Inauguration Day, less than 24 hours away until the swearing in, and there's a growing number of congressional members that are going to be boycotting. It's up to 51 now, I believe. Do you think there's anything wrong with members of Congress boycotting the inauguration, sitting this one out?
I think it is something hugely wrong with this, because what they are doing is turning their back on our system of representative democracy. They are acting childish, immature, and petulant, and saying that if we don't get our way, we're not, we don't want to play. And they're setting a bad example for our young men and young women, for our children who will be watching today, to say that, we do not have to take part in what defines us as America, which is the peaceful transition of power in this country. Imagine, Dan and Amy, if 60 to 65 Republicans back in 2008 had said that we're not going to the inauguration. We just don't like this president.
Racist.
It's not about policies. It's just we don't like him.
Yeah. You would, of course.
People would still be talking about it.
Well, and everybody who didn't go would be a racist. I mean, that would just be the response, the blanket response, which is the response from the left, almost regardless of actions by conservatives. So speaking of petulance and childlike behavior, I want to go to these confirmation hearings, and Comrade Bernie and Senator Pocahontas are really trying to outdo each other in terms of shrill grandstanding. And as the CEO of the National Center for Policy Analysis, Colonel West, you're involved in a range of issues, not just military, healthcare, and other public policy, healthcare in particular. And so the confirmation hearing of Dr. Tom Price yesterday, where Bernie Sanders said to Dr. Price that America is not a compassionate country, not compared to other Western countries, because health care is not a guaranteed right, quote unquote, in this country like it is in those other countries. What's your response to Comrade Bernie to that statement?
Well, for a socialist, I mean, he does believe that, health care and many other things are a right and not a privilege. We have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but unfortunately people like Bernie Sanders and the progressive socialist left believe that they're the ones that can guarantee happiness. I don't see people trying to swim from the United States of America or get on makeshift rafts to go to Cuba. I mean, and I think that was one of the countries that he brought up. This is an incredibly compassionate nation. When there are, horrible things that happen in other countries, the United States of America is always there. And when you look at people here, we do have programs such as Medicaid that takes care of those folks at or below the poverty line. We do have programs such as Medicare. But what we continue to see is a progressive socialist left that does not believe that people should be able to pursue their happiness. They want to keep them wedded to government. They want to make sure that they continue to economically and truthfully, mentally enslave them to be dependent upon government. That's why, as we see this is the last day of the Obama administration, look at the incredible expansion of the welfare nanny state. Look at how many more people are on food stamps, how many more people are in poverty, because the left is not concerned about how we can help ourselves to rise up out of our situations. They want to keep us there so that they can continue to have individuals as part of their electoral base.
Colonel West, I want to get your take on the nominations in particular. I mean, I should say in general rather than just a particular nomination. One of the things, and this came out in an exchange again between Comrade Bernie and Scott Pruitt, your neighbor to the west there in Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Attorney General for EPA Secretary, is this idea that whether it's Jeff Sessions or Scott Pruitt or others, I'm an administrator. Hey, you all legislate, you make laws, I enforce laws. So demanding that I tell you what my personal view is on climate change or any other matter is assuming that it's okay for federal agencies to legislate. And what you've heard, which is refreshing from the likes of a Pruitt, the likes of a Sessions, is we're not legislators. We're administrators, and there's a difference. And that difference seems to be completely lost on the left, and I just hope that difference holds up when these individuals are cabinet secretaries running these federal agencies.
Well, no, you're absolutely right, and what you saw in those two confirmation hearings, when it comes to this whole climate change thing, that's the religion of the left, and they are just vehemently embracing that, and they will castigate anyone that does not agree with them in a negative light. But we need to get back to an executive branch that executes the laws from the legislative branch. We don't need to have an executive branch that acts as a bureaucratic administrative state that rules this nation by edict or executive order or uses rules and regulations as a means of revenue generation, which is a completely unconstitutional act because the origination clause says that all revenue-generating matters come from the House of Representatives. They don't come from the EPA. So I think that you're going to see an incredible recommitment to our system of governance as a constitutional republic, which is not how we have been acting in the past 8 years. We've been more so of a constitutional monarchy under Barack Obama.
He is Colonel Allen West, President and CEO of the National Center for Policy Analysis in Dallas. Of course, former congressman, the author of the book, The Guardian of the Republic. And also, we sat down for an Against the Current long-form interview for upstream-ideas.com, did Colonel West and I, right before the election. A lot of important insights from Colonel West in that discussion that are applicable after the election and as we're on the cusp of a new administration. So check that out. Colonel West, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Enjoy.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.